Hello everybody, and welcome to this annual wreath making workshop or virtual wreath making workshop that we're going to be doing this year. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're joining us. And my name is Chris Wardle. I am the gardens manager for the northeast of Scotland here, and unfortunately I pulled the short straw, so I've got to give you the demonstration. But we're going to try our best. We're going to try and walk our way through how to make wreaths for you for the Christmas time, and try and show you some hints and techniques and so on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all give you a little bit of history about wreaths and where they came from and so on, very short. I'm going to show you what's going to be in your kits, and then we will then give you the demonstration of how to construct a wreath using the materials that we've got. One of the things that we decided when we were putting the kits together for you was that we wanted to make sure that the wreaths were made from natural materials. We're trying as an organisation to reduce plastic and unnatural materials, so we've given you materials that are natural and compostable, and also the only other materials that you'll find within your kits are able to be reused in subsequent years. When we go through the workshop, please remember, you're not experts, we're not experts, we're not trained florists and so on, it's all about the process of doing it. It's something enjoyable, something that you can do on your own, with friends, with your family and so on. So it's just about being together and doing something creative, and that's the joy of doing this. At various points, what we might do is we might stop the video and say, please stop the video now, because that will give you a chance to then catch up and carry on doing the processes that we're doing. We're going to try and show you as many different techniques so that when you're constructing the wreaths themselves, you get to do the creative bit. We'll show you the base level of how to decorate them and so on, and we've given you some of the materials, but you might like to use whatever you've got in your own Christmas decoration boxes and so on. You might like to go online, look at things like Pinterest or the internet, and get your own ideas about how you would like to decorate your wreaths. So what we'll do is we'll stop just at that point, and then what we'll do is we'll get some close-ups of what's in the kit, and also then I shall give you a little bit of a history. So wreaths have been around for a really long time, and the first known references to wreaths comes from the Greeks, and they were given as gifts to those who were rich and powerful who took part in games. So they were always traditionally, at that time, the Greeks used to make them out of olive or laurel branches, and they were a sign of strength and power because those trees lived for a very long time. But the Christmas wreaths as we know them now, actually, we think that we associate them with being more Victorian, but in fact they're a lot older than the Victorians, and they actually date, as we see them constructed today, from the 16th century. And it's from Germany, and it's the Lutheran monks. What they used to do is they used to take trees inside of their house to scent their houses and to celebrate the Christmas times. And when they took trees inside the house, which were mostly evergreens, they cut them into the shape of a triangle. This was two reasons, partly to actually make the trees fit inside the house, but the triangles was the shape of the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son and the Holy Ghost. And of course, when they created these triangle shapes, they took branches off, and they didn't want to waste anything. So what they did is they took the evergreen branches off of these trees and they put them on cartwheels. And the cartwheels were then hung on the outside of their houses. And of course, the cartwheel had its own significance as well. And the fact that the cartwheel was round signified it was the circle of life, and it was also longevity as well. And so there were lots of double meanings to everything that was used. And traditionally, as we still use today, is we use evergreens. And the evergreen material that we put into our wreaths to decorate them this harks back to when the Greeks were using things like the bay and the olive, and which it's the sign of power and the fact that the branches persist for a long time. Obviously, as you come into more recent times, it was actually the Victorians, and they really started to then, the Victorians really started to decorate and make them much more of a sort of a decorative item, and that's what we know them as of today. So there you go, there's a little bit about the history of the wreaths, and what we'll do now is we will show you what's in your kits and the base level of what you have. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly run through what you will find within your box. And you'll see on the table in front of me here, I'll go through the base level of what you'll find and then some of the other bits that I will be using to demonstrate with. So first of all, what you're going to find is your ring, which is a copper ring like this, and it's roughly around about 12 inches across. So that's the first thing you will find. That's the base for your wreath. Also within your kit, you will find some, this is dried orange peel, and you'll find some of that, really useful, very heavily scented, very Christmassy, so you'll find some of that within your kit, as well as some cinnamon sticks. Again, very Christmassy, lovely beautiful smell, and you'll find some of those. We're definitely going to be using some of those. You'll also find some raffia, which is a natural material, string-like, but is actually derived from plants. So the fibres of plants, so that's raffia. So you'll find a small bundle of that, and we'll definitely be using that. There'll also be some pine cones, something along like this. Oops. Some pine cones, and there'll be either a mixture of straightforward pine cones like this, or these are actually larch twigs with small larch pine cones as well. Really useful, make very small decorative things. Some of the kits that you might find, depending on which property you get them from, there might be some small conkers. You can just see some conkers. Great things to pick up at the right time of the year because they can be shiny and glossy, and they really add something to a wreath as well. You will also find some small sections of floristry wire, something like this, very small, pliable, bendy, and there's be some sections of that, as well as some string. The string may or may not be in a container, but it's worth noting that if it doesn't come in a container, to stop it getting into a bit of a muddle and getting knotted, the best thing that you can do is to take an old jar like this and make a hole in the top using a sharp pair of scissors or something, and then actually put the string inside and then pull it through. And that way, whenever you pull it out, it won't get in a jumble. So a great little tip there. Other things that you're going to find is we're providing the moss, and there'll be a bag of moss, should be slightly damp, and this will be inside the kit as well. And as well as that, you'll have some evergreen foliage, a selection of. Again, this will depend on the property that you're picking up your kit from, but it can be things like there might be some holly, some ivy, there could be some evergreens, some conifers, and so on. So there'll be a selection of evergreen foliage to help decorate your kit. Additional things that you should really have, or you may need when you're doing everything at home, is either a pair of secateurs, which would be quite useful, or a pair of good kitchen scissors, really useful for cutting string, and a pair of secateurs for cutting some of the evergreen foliage. If you don't have secateurs, a really good pair of kitchen scissors will do the job, so you just got to be a little bit careful. Other things that you may find handy, something like a skewer. If you have a metal skewer, just as well, here's something I found at home, and this could be used for making small holes, either in cones or through the wreath itself. So a skewer could be quite useful. And then there are other bits and pieces that you may wish to have. We will be putting in some ribbon for making a bow, something like this. You can use whatever you have around the house as well. This is just one that this has actually been sat on our Christmas tree for years and years and years. So there's a bow. And then also you may have other bits and pieces of decorations that you will choose to put on yourselves. So I've got a selection of items here that we picked up just off the floor at this time of the year. Leaves, are absolutely fantastic. If you get the leaves at the right time of year, when they've got autumn colour, you can press them and they can make small little bouquets. Natural again, you might choose to do something like that. Earlier in the summer, from the garden here, and we're actually at Castle Fraser today, these are actually dried flowers, which these are actually helichrysums. We happen to have had these dried off, and so I've got a few of these that I might use, I might not. So we'll see. And some other cones. These are quite big for the size of ring that we're using, but we might decide to actually use them or not, but we'll see. So cones, good natural materials, and you can see how everything could start to come together. Something that I've brought in today that I might put on to the wreath that I'm going to make is these are actually some of our home Christmas decorations. And we've had these for a long time, and these are actually very sort of kind of Scandinavian, sort of corn dolly type decorations, and we've had lots of these, very fine, and this is the sort of thing that we like to have at home ourselves, and they will look really good on a wreath. And you can see there they're coloured string, and also they're just made out of straw. These have been we've had these for years and years and years, and they can look really good as part of a wreath as well. So there you go, that's what's in your kit, as well as some of the other bits and pieces that you may choose to have, but we'll see how it goes. If you have other things that you might have at home, these are actually sourdough Christmas decorations, and these are some old candy stick things that we had kicking around as well. So I just brought these in. Again, if you're doing this with children, could be really, really fantastic, and sort of play about with the decoration. So what we're going to do now is it might be best to stop. We'll get everything prepared, and what we'll do is we'll show you the base level of how to actually get the ring itself put together. Okay everybody, this is the first part of putting your ring together, and I've actually swapped over to using a slightly larger ring. This is purely for the demonstration purposes, because it's going to be much easier for me to show you some of the things that are going to go on with this larger ring. The most important thing to start off with is we need to decide which way's up, or whether we're hanging it at all. We could use this as a table decoration, in which case we don't need to hang it up, it could just sit flat. But if we're hanging it up on a door or a gate or a post or wherever, we need to make sure that there's some way to hang it. And the way to do that is we need to cut ourselves a length of string, probably something around about this, that's around about 60 centimetres. Because this is a larger ring, we might need something longer for it. We take the piece of string, we double it in half, and then we need to just tie a knot in the two open ends. Something like this, and that gives us a loop. Can you see that? That's a loop. And what we need to do with this is we pass it through the ring and then double the string back on itself. And that gives us a double piece of string like this. If this is a larger ring, then we need two pieces of string. This could be quite heavy, so we need to make sure that that's strong enough to hold the weight of everything. So that's the first stage that we need to do. So I'll stop at that point, and what we'll do is we'll let you catch up, and then we'll restart and we'll show you the moss and how to attach the moss onto the ring, and we'll move the camera for that stage. Okay everybody, hopefully all you should be able to see now are my hands and the objects that are on the table. So we have the ring and the moss and the string and our scissors. These are the most vital bits for this part. Now the moss should be slightly moist, and this will actually help you in what we're doing. If it wasn't moist, then what we would need to do is maybe damp it down slightly, and this is because we want the moss to actually clump together. Where we have the ring, we need to start off, I'm going to go in this direction, round like this. So what we need to do is we need to start taking the moss, and we need almost like a fistful, like this. And what we're trying to do is we want to create a fist on top and about half a fistful to sit underneath, because we want most of the height to be on the top. we're looking, you can see this, we're looking for the depth to be around about 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches, something like that on the top, and about 1 inch on the underside as well. So what we need to do is we'll take a bit and pack that around the back. And I'll pack a bit more around the back just here. And once we get a little bit further on, we'll start to then tie it on. So got a good amount here. You might find in the moss there might be things like twigs and bits and pieces like that. It's just the way that it comes. You just need to take those out. We need to lay it over like this. At the moment I'm doing this quite loosely. You'll probably notice that I'm using an old table here, and if you haven't got a table, make sure that you put some newspapers or a dust sheet down or something where you don't mind making some mess, because it does get quite messy this stage. We need to press it onto the ring like so, and it needs to be quite firm, which is why the moisture in the moss will actually help it all start to come together. And because it will bind, at least in the first instance, that will at least give us a start before we start to add the string. I'm going to go so far before I then start to put some string on. So I'm taking another fist here and I'm pushing it together, making it quite firm, like so. You can see it's in a sort of a sausage type shape. And I'm not going to go too far, and then I'm going to start to spring. Here's my half fist. I'll use some of this that's on the table. That will sit round the back. When we're doing this stage, this is time well spent, making sure we get it looking just as we want to get it to look, because this is the foundation that everything else sits on. Now you can see the way it's starting to come together. Hopefully you can see the depth there, about 2 to 3 inches above and about 1 inch behind, and it feels quite firm. And the firmer, the better, at least at this stage, before we start to put the string on. So I've done around about 1/4 just there, pushing together, quite firm. Hard to describe how it feels, like hard dough, something like that. Then we take some string, and we want a decent amount. So there's a good kind of armful there. There's probably a couple of meters, and I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to start at the top just here. I'm going to pass it underneath and just tie it on quite hard and just with a straightforward knot like so. Don't worry about any loose edges just at the moment, because we can tidy those up. You can see I've got a reasonable amount of string here. Then basically I'm just going to wrap round and round the loop, trying to catch everything underneath and tie it on to the pull that through quite tight. And keep going, try and catch everything underneath. Section by section, pull it in, try and catch it again, and keep going round. If you feel a section is lacking a little bit of moss, just take a bit more out of your pile and you can pack it in so that the string then catches it like that. So if you need to pack it and you'll feel it, you're need to keep a consistent kind of width all the way around. the string actually binds on itself, so that you'll find that once you don't need to keep the tension on, because the string is natural material as well. It's made of jute, which is a natural fibre. It will actually bind into the moss. I can see this is a little bit thin just here, so I'm going to poach a bit from there. Move that along. I can feel the width. Keep going round. A little bit more moss. I can feel it's just underneath here, it's a little bit lacking, just on the other side. I can bring all this in. This is pulled fairly tight now. I can feel it's quite firm. And what I need to do is I've done around about a quarter. I can actually I won't be able to, I don't think there's enough string there to get all the way around. I'll try. I just need to finish it off at that section. Try and pass it underneath the string to tie it on before I then start again. If I leave myself a little end, just like this, I can attach a piece of string there and I can go into the next section. Now this feels quite firm, it's quite heavy, and you can see in the width just there, you can see it's slightly fatter on the top side than on the bottom side, and actually the string, hopefully you can see, is mostly hidden by all the moss. So what we're going to do is we'll stop just there, and then I'll reattach another piece of string and I'll work around. I'll do one more section and then we'll stop at that point and let everybody catch up so that you can get to a point where everybody's happy. Right everybody, what we've done now is we've rushed ahead and we've completed our base level ring. So what we've done is we've completed all the way through. We've still got our loop at the top just here for hanging, and we've tied on. It feels quite firm all the way around, still quite moist, so it feels firm and it's all held together quite well. So now you can see it's got a flat back to it and so on. So we've now got the base level of the ring and how it's supposed to look, and now we've got to look at putting the decoration on. Don't worry if it looks a little bit rustic, let's call it rustic. That's fine, it will all come together. A lot of this will actually be hidden. I was actually talking about this just a short time ago and saying, if you get a really good tight knit onto this will last a really, really long time. We've actually got one at home that must be nearly 35 years old, and periodically we'll come along and we might spritz it with one of those water sprayers, and you can actually rehydrate the moss and it will come back to life again. The one we've got at home is very, very basic. It's a ring just with ribbon around it and then a heart decoration that hangs in the middle, and that actually sits on our shed and it's been there for a very, very long time. So that's the base level of the ring, and now we're going to put the decoration onto it as well. So what you need to do is you need to take some of your evergreens, and we're looking to create an evergreen kind of framework that sits over the top of this. It's good to use different colours and different textures. So if you can see here, I've actually just chosen 3 conifers. There's a lime green, there's a sort of a mid green, and this is yew, which is a dark green, and you can see there are different textures. You can create patterns using the framework of the foliage, because you can have the, let's take another piece of this lime green just from my block here. we could create a pattern that comes towards the top, running in this direction, like this, and it goes in this direction. Or we can create it all going in the same direction, in a circle. So you need to think about what you want to create using the materials that you've got within your little kits, and it's good to have these different colours and textures together. So I'm going to start off by, here is the top section. This is where it's going to be hanging, and I think I'm going to start off with a piece that's going to come in this direction. So what I will do is I don't want to cut too much off of here, and I want something that's, for me, it's about 1.5 times my length of my hand. I don't want to cut too much off the bottom here, because this is where I'm going to tie on. So if I, using my secateurs, I take a little section like this, and I'm actually going to lie over another section, and I'll take that roughly about the same length like this. And I think I've got a small, I actually cut this off of this U here. This is quite a small, short section. But if I put this at the same length down here, that's quite pretty. I quite like this. I can always trim off this if I don't like it too long. Just a little snip just here. That looks quite good. Now what I'm going to do just here at this point is I can take a piece of string and I can tie it just here. Don't worry too much if you see this string, because this piece of string just here, you'll see in just a second, will actually get hidden by the next section. So I shall cut a piece of string underneath, quite firm. You might want somebody to help you hold that. That's quite firm. I'm going to tidy those pieces of string just there, put those to one side. So that's the first section, and I've got 3 different colours, and I've used the light green as the background, a mid green and the other green. And I think I'm going to continue that into the next section. So you can see here, if I place over what I think I'm going to use, so this section here, mid green, and again the dark green, tidy this up, just a couple of sprigs like this. Perfect, that's exactly what I want. You can see it's starting to build, and where the 3 stems come together is actually at this point here. I can tidy that off. Perfect. Another piece of string. These 3 stems come here. Quite tight. And just like that. And tidy off. Here's my loop still at the top, and you can see it's going in this direction. Now I think what I would like to do is possibly continue this all in the same direction, so that I end up going round and round and round and round, and my final piece will be in this and will be hidden underneath here. So I think that I'm going to keep going round. Now there is the option that I could have gone in the opposite direction, which creates this nice V at the top just here. I'm kind of a bit torn there, because I quite like that, going in that direction, 2 different directions. So I shall decide just now, and then what I'll do is I'll complete the rest of this round until I have the shape. So what you can do is using your materials, you can use whatever you've got around in your kits. There, here, I'm just looking behind me, there is some ivy. There's a bit of conifer, and just taking out of my basket that's next to me here as well, there is a little bit of eucalyptus. 3s are a great number for using for putting things together because that complements itself. So there's one option, another option. And just picking from my basket of materials that I happen to have here, there is also some juniper, and there's a little bit of conifer here, and then maybe a bit of this yellow, and you can see that little bit of combination just there. So play around with what you have inside your kit, decide how you want to decorate before you start to attach, and then you can start to decorate round. And what we'll do is I shall finish this section and then we'll come on to some of the other decorations. So you might want to stop me there and then carry on. Okay everybody, we've zoomed ahead now and we've completed our base level of the design here, and you can see what's really starting to come together now. Sometimes it's worth remembering less is more. You don't need to throw the kitchen sink at this. If you want to create something classy, if you really want to spray glitter and glue all over it, that's entirely up to you. We've just chosen this as a method of doing this, and we've gone for this circular design. So it's really starting to come together now. What we need to do now is before we get to the embellishments or the decoration and so on, we just want to provide a little bit more accent. So this is very green. We've got the base level of the moss and we've got the conifers, and you can see the string is mostly hidden. It's pretty much all hidden. The last bit I tied on, I left 2 long loops just here of the string because in fact one of my accents is going to go just here. Now, depending on the property that you're picking up your kit from, you might have some berries or some evergreen, something shiny like this. We happen to have, just happen to have some holly just here that has still got some berries on. If you pick berries in the future, there's a bit of a tip that what you can do is you can use some hairspray. If you pick berries early and you actually spray the berries with hairspray, it keeps them shiny and crisp and it stops them going mouldy and so on. So with this little bit just here, I think I want to provide this accent just here. Now I don't need a lot of this, so I'm actually going to move this off. I actually only need a bit of stem and probably about that much. And that's going to go just in here. Now I left my piece of string. I just wiggle that through. This is top dead center. A little bit spiky, but it's okay. There we go. And just tie that on like that. There's my scissors. Cut those bits of string off so you can't see them. That's quite secure. Just tidy it up just a little bit. And that's my accent for the top there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go quite classical here. I'm actually going to put one literally at 12 o'clock and sort of 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. So I'm going to actually have one at each corner, and that is very classical. So I'll just very quickly do that. Oh, secateurs. Remove a couple of the leaves. So I've got the stem. That one will go there. And this section I shall put in there. So that's actually quite clean as it is. A little bit of stem. Piece of string. Hopefully I'm not rushing too much. There's a lot to cover, so I don't think that string is actually long enough. There's some string. You will go through a lot of string, and with any luck we have provided you with enough string to do this. We've actually used quite a lot already, but you can see it's mostly hidden. Oops, that's just fallen out. I need to tuck that back under there. It's a bit spiky. Quite tight there. Tidy that up. And then I need to just get this just in here, tuck it in, hide the string underneath. Is that just enough? No, that's not long enough. Tight. Now I'm doing this back to front, so I can't see what this looks like. So I'm just sort of powering ahead, but hopefully you'll be able to have that time to stand back and just check how everything looks. And just tie that in like that. Bit of a rearrangement, and there we go. So that's quite classical. And what we do at this point is we'll stop, let you catch up, and then we'll move on in just a second, and we'll go through the basic of some of the decorations that we can put onto this ring. Right, everybody, we're now going to start looking at the decorations that we've got on, and you can see the ring here now is really starting to look like something. And so what I'm going to start off by doing is just getting some of the objects that I think that I'm going to want to decorate with and just have a little play about with. Now, before I get into demonstrating how to attach some of these bits and pieces, I will show you just where I think I want the objects or the decorations that I want. So I'm going to be using orange peel, some cinnamon sticks, I've got my ribbon here, some cones, a couple of cones, and just off camera I'm going to pull these in. I might use some of these flowers, but we'll see. I'm just going to lean across and get my wire and my raffia. So here's my raffia, and I've got my wire just off to one side. So first of all, I'm going to start off by placing some of the orange peel just in pairs. Some here. I wonder if I have something like this. That doesn't look quite right. Again, you'll notice that I've been using things in threes just because it creates a nice sort of flow to everything. I might put that there. I'm just going to lay on a couple of cinnamon sticks just there. I might have that there. Possibly there was a cone there, and I might put a cone there. My ribbon, I think I'm going to put my ribbon actually at the base, just like that. And I think that's what I'm going to put on as a base level to start off with. I'll decide about these flowers. I quite like these little orange flowers, and they do add a splash of a colour. I'm just going to lay these on. That might work. Again, I don't want to overdo it because, again, less is more in my book, but how you decide to do it is entirely up to you. I think that I might go with that. That might be it. Just off camera, I'm quite interested in possibly trying to get some of these little cones in. These little large cones, they just add something that's quite nice there. And also what I had found were these old spent sweet chestnut capsules, and again they look quite nice. So possibly, is that too much? That could work, just there. So I think I might go for that. We'll stop just there, and then I shall show you how I'm going to prepare some of these to attach on. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to create, using the floristry wire, how to put the wire into the cone. The cone is split open so that there is a space between some of the scales. And if we wiggle the wire and put a slight bend in, we can get it to sit underneath, and we can bend it round on itself so it sits inside the scales, and a little twist like so, and there we have a cone with a piece of wire ready to be attached. That's the first part. The next part is the orange peels, and again something similar. What we can do is we can take a piece of the floristry wire. If this is too long, you can cut this in half. What we do is we just literally very simply poke it through, bend it back on itself. It's quite pliable, and twist it round on itself. Just a little very simple loop like that, and that's a piece of wire, and that's ready to be attached as well. And the third very simple thing is the cinnamon sticks. A little bit more fancy these. We take a piece of our raffia like this, and what we do is we can hold it together and put a nice little bit of a turn round, something like this. It's quite nice. Hold it together, nice long ends. We can always cut afterwards, and then put something like you would tie a shoelace or something similar like that. Push it together, and I think a bow would look quite nice, quite tight. A little bit of a bow. Adjust it down. That's quite good. Now we've got to, hopefully my hands are not in the way. Now we've got a choice. We can either trim these off and we can use a bit of floristry wire, or we could even leave this attached. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scissors, which is just off camera here. I'm going to snip this off, take a piece of my floristry wire. If I want the bow on the top, if I go round the back underneath, same principle as before. Hopefully you can see this, a little light twist, and hidden behind, twisted round like so, and there we've got a piece of floristry wire, and we have our cinnamon sticks, something quite pretty, ready for attaching on as well. So that's 3 different methods: cone, peel, and cinnamon sticks. If we were using the straightforward small cones, which are like these, we don't need to really tie anything to that. We can either use the string or a piece of floristry wire. Once they're attached, once they're placed on, we can just tie them on straight. If we were using something else, like some of our other embellishments, our decorations, these cotton candy sticks and these sourdough little decorations like this, they come with loops on them. They just need literally a piece of string or a piece of wire. What we can do though is a conker, and here is a conker. Just move these out the way so we have a good view. If we were using the conker, this is a little bit more difficult, and I use this little spike here. We've got to be very careful. We don't want to end up stabbing ourselves, but we want to just put a hole through, probably something like that. Hopefully you can see that, it's just gone through. The kitchen skewer would do it as well. It should be just enough to probably get a piece of floristry wire through. Again, same thing. Bend it round on itself. Bit of a twist, like so. So it's nice and hidden, like that. Very simple, and that's how we would do that. If you had a glue gun or a hot glue gun or something, some people do, you never know, what you do is just put a hole in one side, poke the wire in, and then a dob of hot glue, and that will hold that as well. So that's a few of the embellishments there, ready for then putting onto the wreath, and I'm going to attach those in the order that I had previously. Attaching the decorations now is quite simple. Remember where you put your decorations, where you wanted to have them, and you've just got to very simply poke the wire through and put a twist on. If you put your decorations on and you want to remember where it is, take your phone out, take a picture, and you can look at your phone and your picture, and that will tell you once you've organised where you want your decorations to go onto the wreath, that's where they will be. So I wanted my orange peels to go just around about here, so I'm just going to literally poke it straight through. I don't need to do anything fancier than that. I can just put it back through on itself, somewhere like this. It's just like threading. And then I can hide the wire inside. That's it, well attached. It's just a stitch, that's all it is. And that's how we would do that. The same applies for all the other decorations that we've got, whether it's the cinnamon sticks or the cones or anything else we've got. We just place it on the wreath. So I'm going to now attach those, and I'll show you what it looks like in just a second once I've done that. So everybody, I have attached the decorations for my wreath that I've created here, and the last thing that I did was to add a bow to the bottom, and here it is. This is my creation. I'm quite pleased with it, I'm quite proud with it. It's all my own work, so I did this. So there it is. That is the wreath workshop for this year. So you too can create something like this. All that's really left to say is Happy Christmas to you all. Good luck. I hope that you get on well. Be creative. Make sure that it's yours, and sit back, turn the music on, have a glass of wine, a gin and tonic, a cup of tea, whatever you want to do. But enjoy yourself, and from us at the National Trust for Scotland, good luck with what you do, and a happy Christmas.